Part 6. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 51. Chapter 51 Beautiful. Mrs. Kui was surprised. She knew that maltose was not as easy to sell as brown sugar, but Zillugo sold it so quickly, and she even came back early to steam the buns. Precisely because she didn't expect it to sell so quickly, Mrs. Kui thought that Zillugo might not come back until noon. She went to work in the fields after making dough. Had I known she would have come back from the fields earlier, how could Zillugo be busy alone? Mrs. Kui was stunned when she heard Zillugo talking about the lottery promotion. Is this still possible? Mrs. Kui thought that she could not think of such a way to promote sales. Zillugo, you are so awesome. Zillugo's mind is much better than that of the well-educated legitimate daughters of noble families in the capital. When Mrs. Kui looked at Zhang Zillugo, her eyes were shining with admiration. Zhang Zillugo was embarrassed to be looked at by Mrs. Kui like this. Mom, it's actually nothing. There are still many people in the market, and everyone is willing to buy maltose. Zhang Zillugo didn't say anything about the thief because she didn't want Mrs. Kui to worry. Mrs. Kui came to her senses and hurriedly washed her hands and helped Zhang Zillugo. Mrs. Kui is lighting the fire and Zhang Zillugo is cooking. Have fried a plate of cabbage stewed with tofu, and another plate of mushy pork. The two full plates are eaten with cornmeal steamed buns. It should be enough for 3 people. Zhang Zillugo stewed mushroom soup again, then put a crossbar on the large pot, put 2 plates of vegetables on it, covered the pot and heated it up. Mom, while the rice is being heated like this, I will go to the town and ask my husband to come back for dinner. I'll go. It's hard for you to run back and forth like this. Mrs. Kui could feel that Zhang Zillugo was so sincere to this family, both she and He-jin. She felt deeply that He-jin had found a good wife. She saw Zillugo working hard, and even the mother-in-law couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Zhang Zillugo said softly, Mom, just let me go. I can go fast. After saying that, Mrs. Kui went out to the town without waiting for Mrs. Kui to say anything. She has to hurry. Finally we arrived just before class was about to end. Zhang Zillugo said to the guard, Brother, please tell Master Kui at the school and tell him that I have something urgent to come to him. Yesterday morning Zhang Zillugo came to help Kui Hejin ask for leave, and the doorman all knew her. Little madam, wait a moment, I'll go in and talk to Master Kui. Get out of class happened to be over at this time, and Kui Hejin was going to the kitchen to heat up the dry food he had brought. As soon as I came out of the classroom, the guard boy ran over. Master Kui, your wife came to see you and said at the door that something was urgent. As soon as Kui Hejin heard about the urgent matter, he didn't care about anything and hurried towards the door. Zhang Zillugo was waiting at the door. When she saw Kui Hejin coming out of the academy, her eyes lit up. She couldn't help but admire in her heart, she was really like jade in a stranger's place, and the young master was unparalleled in the world. Kui Hejin saw Zhang Zillugo standing at the door, and her cold expression softened a little. I looked at her carefully and made sure she was fine, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Kui Hejin didn't realize the strange change in his mood just now. He came to her, lowered his voice and asked, but what happened? Zhang Zillugo said, let's go home and talk first. Of course, Zhang Zillugo couldn't tell her about the dream. If she did, Kui Hejin wouldn't believe it. It's better to ask him to go home first. Kui Hejin didn't ask any more questions, nodded and said, okay. At this moment, the students in the school came out one after another. Seeing Kui Hejin and Zhang Zillugo standing together, they both opened their eyes curiously. Who is that beautiful sister? I just heard that Master Kui's wife is looking for him. This is Master Kui's wife. Wow, Mrs. Kui is good looking, and so is his wife. We call her Shi Niang. The little carrot heads looked up obediently at Zhang Zillugo, and shouted crisply, hello, Master. Everyone blinked at Zhang Ziluo with their big, clear eyes. They just thought she was pretty and couldn't help but look at her a few more times. Zhang Ziluo looked at their cute expressions and was amused by them all. She also thought of her younger brother Xian. She happened to have some maltos left in the space. She also recognized the 7 or 8-year-old boy in the front as the one holding something for Kui Hejin in the dream. Same as the following ones. Zhang Ziluo nodded with a smile, knelt down and said softly, "Hello, you guys. Master, you are so beautiful." Zhang Ziluo was in a beautiful mood when she was sincerely praised by the children. "You are also very cute and sensible. Master wife, I like you so much." A 5-year-old chubby boy looked at Zhang Ziluo and expressed his liking. He likes this gentle and beautiful sister. Children are actually the most sensitive. They can sense whether a person likes them and treats them with kindness. Zhang Ziluo chuckled, not shying away from her true feelings, and said, "Master wife also likes you. Here, I'll give you some maltos." Several children waved their hands and said, "No, no, we can't ask for the teacher's wife's things." "Yes, I can't do it. The teacher's wife is also very hard-working." Zhang Ziluo said warmly, "Don't worry, mistress didn't buy this, mistress made it herself. Can you help mistress taste it?" Then everyone reached out and took it, one person at a time. When everyone finally left, they were still reluctant to leave, taking 3 steps and looking back at Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo waved to them and went back with Kui Hejin. On the way, Zhang Ziluo was in a good mood, her steps were brisk, and she was humming a tune softly. She is not that superficial, but when children praise her for her beauty, she feels that she will be in a good mood throughout the day. Kui Hejin looked over slightly and could see a bright smile on Zhang Ziluo's face. The noon sun shone on her body, and she felt that under the green grass and blue sky, she seemed to have gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, with a dazzling brilliance all over her body, radiant and radiant. Kui Hejin's eyes trembled, he looked away, his brows narrowed. When Kui Hejin returned home, Mrs. Kui was patting the quilts and mattresses that were drying in the yard. The sun was good, so Mrs. Kui took out the quilt to dry it in the sun. "I'm home." Kui Hejin asked in a low voice, "Mom, is there something urgent at home?" Mrs. Kui was stunned for a moment, obviously not expecting why Kui Hejin asked this. But then she thought about it and said, "Ziluo is not worried about you because she is worried about you, but she is afraid that you will not be able to eat well in school, so she has steamed the steamed buns and cooked the rice, and specially went to ask you to go home for dinner." Kui Hejin's expression changed. Zhang Ziluo had already washed her hands and went into the house to take out the steamed buns, vegetables, and soup. Kui Hejin had a good lunch, whether it was cornmeal buns, vegetables, or soup, they were all fresh and delicious. Mrs. Kui was very happy to see Kui Hejin eating more. Her son ate very little in the past. She knew it might be because she was not very good at cooking and it was not to his liking. But Mrs. Kui can see that Kui Hejin likes to eat Ziluo's cooking. After lunch, Kui Hejin rested for a while and then returned to the school. As soon as I arrived at the school, I felt an unusual atmosphere. Many people nearby gathered around the door of the school. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 52. Chapter 52 Wang Fu. On weekdays there would not be so many people around the school entrance. Kui Hejin saw everyone blocking the door and wanted to ask everyone to give way before entering the school. But at this moment, he heard everyone's discussion. "It's really dangerous." "No, just hearing it is scary." "What's going on in the school? Don't you hire craftsmen to repair the house regularly? If it hits people, everyone will be dead." "You can't say that. Even if you don't die, you will be maimed. You have to know that the entire kitchen roof collapsed. I live next to it and heard the loud bang. Fortunately, my family always lets the children go home for lunch and won't go to the kitchen at all. But I heard that Master Kui would heat up food in the back kitchen if he didn't go back at noon. Fortunately, Master Kui is not here today. If Master Kui was here, he would be buried in it. Everyone was talking in a hurry. Kui Hejin could no longer hear the sounds behind him, and his head buzzed. My mind was filled with the sound just now, and the whole kitchen collapsed. And he happened to be preparing to heat up food in the kitchen at noon, if not. His cold and picturesque brows and eyes seemed to suddenly take on a dark color. His face is also slightly pale. Someone came from behind and happened to see Kui Hejin shouting, "Master Kui, you are here." When the people surrounding the door heard the sound, they turned to look at Kui Hejin and said, "Oh, Mr. Kui, it's great that you're okay. I heard from my Xiaozhuang that your wife asked you to leave." Fortunately, after you left, the kitchen collapsed within a short time. Mr. Li asked a craftsman to come over and have a look. He said that the beams in the kitchen were in disrepair and the kitchen was often useless, so Mr. Li never asked anyone to repair it. It's really a coincidence. It seems that your wife is blessed and can make you prosperous. Some people are more superstitious and think that Master Kui's wife happened to come and call him away, allowing Master Kui to avoid danger, which means that his wife is prosperous. When mentioning Zhang's Hiluo, Kui Hejin's solemn and deep eyes seemed to be filled with gentle moonlight, as if they contained a touch of tenderness that was not easily revealed. Kui Hejin said calmly, "Thank you all." He entered the school after nodding greetings to everyone. Mr. Li is still watching from the kitchen. Kui Hejin went over and saw the collapsed pile of wood. His face changed slightly, he cupped his hands and said, "Mr. Li." Mr. Li looked back at Kui Hejin and sighed, "Fortunately, you are not in the kitchen. It is my negligence that the kitchen is in disrepair. But your wife is indeed a good person." Kui Hejin stood there quietly, with a pure aura all over his body, but no one knew what he was thinking in his heart at this time. At the Kui family in Donghe village, Zhang Ziluo counted the time and knew that Kui Hejin would be fine when she returned to school, so she felt relieved. Zhang Ziluo boiled medicine for Mrs. Kui and let her drink it. After Mrs. Kui drank the medicine, she couldn't help but ask, "Ziluo, what should we do in the afternoon?" "Mom, I will listen to your arrangements." "Mom, I'm thinking about what to eat." Mrs. Kui was stunned and said, "Ziluo, are you talking about setting up a stall to sell food?" "Well, it's fine either over there at the pier or at the market. It's better to do a food business than to sell brown sugar maltose. We sell brown sugar maltose at most." The business was better in the first few days. As time goes by, there will be fewer people buying. These things are not daily necessities, but they are for food. Zhang Ziluo has been thinking about this matter. Not to mention that making brown sugar and maltose is troublesome and time-consuming. Even if everyone buys these things, they won't eat them every day. But the food is different. If it is delicious, many people will buy it every day. Mrs. Kui thought about it and said, "Yes, Ziluo, what you said makes sense. That is, everyone buys candy during the New Year and festivals, and they don't buy it every day. But for those who are busy in the town, they don't buy it every day. If you don't bring dry food for lunch, you have to buy something to eat. I see people who sell steamed buns. They can sell all the steamed buns in several steamers a day. At least a few hundred steamed buns, 3 cents for vegetarian dishes, 5 cents for meat fillings, at least 1 tael of silver a day. Calculating it, it is more cost-effective than the brown sugar maltose they make." Mrs. Kui didn't dare to think about setting up a food stall before, but after eating Ziluo's cooking, she gained confidence. Zhang Ziluo said, "It's okay, mother, just go and have a rest. Don't worry, I'll think about it myself first." Actually, she has many business ideas in her mind, but she needs to think carefully about the specific food stall. Besides, it is better to start a small business at the beginning. The lower the cost, the better. Mrs. Kui couldn't sit still. She had nothing to do at home in the afternoon. She said to Zhang Ziluo, then you have a rest at home and I will go out for a walk. Mrs. Kui put her basket on her back and went out. Zhang Ziluo sat in the yard and wondered whether to make a leek box or set up a wonton stall. She knows that many people who are busy outside like to eat something with hot soup. They will feel very comfortable if they sit down to eat a bowl of wontons and then drink some wonton soup after they are full. But if you set up a wonton stall, a bowl of wontons costs 15 or 6 cents, which is actually profitable. And if you want to make wontons, make them at home in advance and go to a stall in town to cook them fresh. She can make wontons with a lot of fillings, and the wonton skins are thin, so she doesn't need too much dough. However, the leek box can also be made at home. When you go to the town, someone will buy it and fry it on the spot. It's just spring now and the weather is still a little cold, so you don't have to worry about things breaking. You can also braise pig meat, and the seasonings you bought before are still there. In fact, braised pigs are the least expensive thing to do. Zhang Ziluo wondered whether she should braise the pigs and sell them first to see how the business went. As she thought about it, she took out the seasonings she bought earlier, thinking that she would go to the town to buy a few more pairs of pig sewers from Lin Zizu. Although Lin Zizu would give her a pair of pig's guts as a gift every time she bought meat or ribs, but if she didn't buy meat, she would still have to spend money to buy the pig's guts. Fortunately, the price of buying pig feces separately is relatively low. 3 cents can buy a big barrel. Just when Zhang Ziluo was about to go out, Zhang Xiangchuan walked towards the side with 5-year-old Zhang Yongxuan. Zhang Xiangchuan pushed a small dining cart with a bellows placed on it. Xianxian also helped push it, walking on his calves, looking very serious. When he saw Zhang Ziluo, Zhang Yongxuan said excitedly, "Sister." Zhang Ziluo was very happy when she saw her father and younger brother coming, and said in surprise, "Dad, Xianxian." She felt pain when she saw her father pushing things and walking awkwardly, but her father still came all the way to deliver the small dining cart to her. Zhang Xiangchuan was also very happy when he saw his daughter, and said with a smile, "My daughter, this is the small dining car you mentioned, and this is the bellows, they are all ready." Xianxian Nai Qingqing said, "Sister, the bellows is so easy to use. Now I can help my parents pull the bellows and light the fire." Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Xianxian is really amazing." Xuanxuan's face showed a happy smile after being praised by her sister, which was very cute. She held her brother with one hand and pushed the small dining cart with the other hand, saying, "Come on, let's go into the house and talk." Zhang Xiangchuan waved his hand and said, "Daughter, it's okay. Dad won't go in. I'll just go back after giving you something." Zhang Xiangchuan didn't want to cause trouble to his daughter. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 53. Zhang Xiangchuan knew that his daughter was married and now lived with Kui Hejin and her mother-in-law. Although the Kui family, mother and son, are very good people, if they are unhappy and show off to their daughter, it will embarrass her. Zhang Xiangchuan felt uncomfortable when he thought that his daughter would be wronged. But when a daughter grows up, she will eventually get married. Fortunately, Kui Hejin of the Kui family was chosen by her daughter, so the two of them can live happily. It's just that if there is a mother-in-law above, she probably won't feel so comfortable. Zhang Ziluo and her father pushed the small dining cart into the yard. Looking at her father's expression, she knew what he was worried about. She said, "Dad, you don't have to worry, my mother-in-law is very good to me. My husband and mother-in-law are not at home now. You and your brother go into the house and sit for a while I go get some water." Zhang Xiangchuan looked at the small fenced courtyard without walls, feeling sour and distressed. Zhang Xiangchuan shook his head and said, "We won't go in. I'll tell you about the bellows and dining car. Also, there are willow leaf buns made by your mother in the basket." In order to make it easier to bring things over, a small basket was placed on the dining cart. Xianxian said, "Sister, the buns I made for lunch are still hot." Zhang Ziluo was very touched. "Dad, you and Mom don't have to worry about me. I eat well here, but you can save it for your younger brothers and sisters. They are growing up." Zhang Ziluo knew the conditions of her parents' family, and also knew that it was not a Chinese New Year or a holiday, so her family couldn't bear to make white flour rice, let alone make steamed buns with white flour. Zhang Xiangchuan said, "They can't eat much, and they all miss you." Xianxian nodded and said seriously, "Sister, I can eat less, sister, eat more." Zhang Ziluo's nose felt sour and she felt very uncomfortable. "Silly Xianxian, you have to eat more, and you will grow faster if you eat more." Xianxian tilted his head and thought for a while and said, "Then if I grow up quickly, I will have the strength to do things and be good to my sister." Zhang Ziluo touched his hair and said, "Well, so we Xianxian can't eat less, we have to eat more." Zhang Xiangchuan also handed the 200 coins in his hand to Zhang Ziluo and said, "Ziluo, this is the 100 coins earned from selling the building blocks. Take it." Zhang Ziluo's expression changed and she said, "Dad, I can't take your money. This is the money you earn from making building blocks. Keep it to buy some delicious food to replenish your health, mother and brothers and sisters." "Dad, I have made money selling brown sugar and maltose during this period, and the money in my hands is real." Zhang Ziluo deliberately became serious. Zhang Xiangchuan was afraid that his daughter would be unhappy, so he could only take it back first. Speaking about the building blocks, Zhang Xiangchuan explained, "Yesterday I went to the market in Yangliu village and bought a set of building blocks to sell." Xianxian was playing next to him. A boy liked it, so his mother bought a set. Zhang Ziluo had previously painted building blocks in detail and how to play them. Zhang Xiangchuan could understand them, so he taught Xianxian how to play. Zhang Ziluo knows that most people in the village wait to buy things during the village market. Not every village has a market. They are all large villages and have the custom of going to the market passed down from the past. Small traders nearby will go to the village market to sell things. Villers from Shiliba village may also come to the market on this day. Because everything sold in the village market is cheap and the price is acceptable to the villagers. Zhang Ziluo was afraid that her parents would worry, so she briefly talked about the business matters during this period, just to stop her parents from worrying. "By the way, Dad, can the bellows be sold?" Zhang Xiangchuan shook his head and said, "Everyone doesn't know how to use the bellows. I told everyone how to use it at the stall. There were many curious people watching, but no one bought it. Everyone thought it was too expensive. It's not cost-effective to spend 20 or 30 pennies on a bellows, and it won't affect anything when lighting a fire normally. But your mother and I both feel that after using the bellows, we can save firewood, because the bellows has a big fire, and even a little firewood will burn very brightly, and the pot can be boiled in a short time." Zhang Xiangchuan's eyes lit up when he looked at the bellows. Others didn't understand, but he liked to use this thing. Zhang Ziluo knows that it really saves firewood. When the weather is dry and there is enough firewood, nothing can be seen. If the weather is humid and the firewood feels damp, making it difficult to ignite, the bellows can play a big role. Zhang Ziluo talked with her father and brother, and then took out a bag of maltose, which contained more than 30 pieces of maltose. "Dad, this is maltose for you." With that said, Zhang Ziluo took 2 pieces and handed them to Xianxian. "Sister, I made these myself. You can take them and eat them. You can't eat too much in one day. Let Dad take these and give them to you in pieces later." Zhang Xiangchuan was stunned when he heard this. Daughter, is this the maltose you made? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, I made it. Dad, you can try it. This is what I think, Dad. Please stop making bellows and building blocks. If these things are sold at the village market, no one may buy them. Actually, she was wrong at first. She only thought that her father could do carpentry and that doing some carpentry would be a good business. In fact, when people generally have not solved the problem of food and clothing, they will not think about buying other things. So it is better to do business or to do food business. Zhang Ziluo asked, Dad, do you want to do some food business, that is, setting up a small stall? Zhang Xiangchuan thought for a moment and said, Daughter, my father is a stupid person. He doesn't know much about words or cooking. He can only do some carpentry work. He may not be able to run a food business. What if the noodles and vegetables are wasted? That's a pity. It's just the beginning of spring and I have to be busy with farming. Dad wants to plant the land first. Zhang Xiangchuan felt that he would feel at ease only after planting the land well and having a grain harvest every year. Moreover, since his legs are bad, it is inconvenient for him to go out and set up a stall. He mainly does not want his daughter to worry about him. If he does this, his daughter will help him come up with ideas and worry about it. Daughter, don't worry about your family, take care of yourself so that your mother and I can rest assured. Zhang Ziluo understands her father's concerns. Maybe if her life gets better and she earns more money, then if she helps her parents, they may not have any psychological burden. However, Zhang Ziluo still told her father about the method of making maltose. There is no need to set up a stall for this every day. If you make it once or twice occasionally, you can also earn some copper coins to support your family by setting up a stall at the village market. After talking for a while, Zhang Xiangchuan took Xianxian back. However, when they left, Zhang Ziluo brought them some cornmeal buns that had been steamed at noon. At noon, the family ate too, and there were 6 more, which were given to them all. Zhang Xiangchuan didn't want it no matter what, but it was Zhang Ziluo's insistence that made him take it. Zhang Ziluo couldn't bear to part with her well-behaved brother, so she hugged him and told him some things before letting him go back. When Xianxian followed his father back, he turned around every step he took. After walking out of the village and losing sight of sister, Xianxian looked at his father with red eyes and said, Dad, can I come to see sister often? The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 54. Chapter 54 Braised Food, released in the early morning. Zhang Xiangchuan looked back and said with a look of reluctance in his eyes, Your sister is married. We can't cause trouble to your sister, so we can't come often. The mother-in-law probably doesn't like her daughter-in-law to have frequent interactions with her natal family. They often come to see Ziluo. If Ziluo's husband-in-law and mother-in-law have any objections, it will have an impact on her life. Xuanxuan's eyes turned redder, and he lowered his head, looking very depressed. He used to see sister every day, but now he hasn't seen sister for several days. He misses sister very much. Since Xianxian was born, Zhang Ziluo has been with him most of the time. At that time, Zhang Ziluo was not very smart. Her family loved her and did not let her do any work. Zhang Xiangchuan, Yeshi, and Zhang Yunchu all have things to do and cannot stay with Xianxian all day long. That is to say, Zhang Ziluo watched him and accompanied him. The relationship between the two of them was naturally much deeper than that of others. Xianxian actually relies on Zhang Ziluo in her heart. Children don't quite understand what it means to get married. Dad, are you like sister Chengxia, who can only go home during the Chinese New Year? Xianxian was 5 years old and didn't quite understand what it meant for his sister to get married, but he knew that sister Chengxia next door could only go home once or twice a year. Niu Sheng said that sister Chengxia's mother-in-law would set rules for her. She cannot go back to her parents' home often, nor can she see her parents' family often. Xian felt very sad when she thought that her sister also had to live a very hard life. Will he be able to help sister when he grows up? Zhang Xiangchuan looked at Xian's sad look and felt uncomfortable. Your sister's mother-in-law and husband-in-law are very nice. They are different. Sister Qi said that she will go home to see you when she has time. When Xian heard this, he suddenly became energetic and said, then I want to eat well and grow up quickly. No, I can eat less and let my brothers and sisters eat more. Zhang Xiangchuan walked to Shanxing village while talking to his son. Zhang Ziluo stood at the door of the small courtyard, unable to regain consciousness for a long time. Looking at my father's bad legs and walking with a limp, and seeing that my younger brother Xian was 5 years old and came all the way to see her, just because he missed her. But they didn't stay long after they came, and they even insisted not to stay for dinner. Even the cornmeal buns she gave them were forced on them. The coarse linen clothes her father wore were a bit old, but she knew that they were his best clothes. Xian's clothes and shoes are very big. That's because the clothes of her younger siblings are all Xian's clothes and shoes that fall down from her older siblings' clothes. The clothes are usually not changed if they are bigger, but I think they will be just right when he grows older. Most families with brothers and sisters in the village are like this. It can be said that in her memory, Xian never wore any new clothes of his own until he was 5 years old. Zhang Ziluo sniffed and suppressed the sour emotions in her heart. She knew that she had to live a good life and earn more money so that she could have more ability to help her parents' family. Otherwise, her parents would be worried about her and would not ask for what she gave them. Previously, she treated Zhuang Xing'an, the young owner of the medical clinic, and received 10 taels of silver. She only said that she happened to save someone and he thanked her for the money. She secretly stuffed 5 taels of silver into her father's pocket. He would definitely see it when he went home to change his clothes. Because the clothes her father wore in the afternoon were the best clothes, so he would wear them when he went out. When working at home, her father was used to wearing shabby patched clothes, so he was not afraid of getting dirty or torn. If she gave him the money directly, her father would definitely not want it, so he could only stuff it secretly. After a long time, Zhang Ziluo withdrew her gaze and returned to the yard. She looked at the bellows and sighed, Dad's handiwork is really good. There was also a small dining car. Zhang Ziluo's eyes lit up when she saw it. Her father knew that she wanted to start a food business, so the small dining cart was equipped with an iron plate and a small iron pot. You can put firewood below to burn firewood. Her father said before that there happened to be unused iron plates and pots at home for her to put on the small dining cart. Zhang Ziluo really needs this at this time, and she doesn't care about being pretentious. She just wants to make more money quickly so that she can be good to the people around her. Zhang Ziluo saw that it was still early, so she tidied up, closed the fenced courtyard and went to the town. Lin Zuzu from the meat stall saw Zhang Ziluo coming and happily greeted her, Sister Zhang, you are here. Zhang Ziluo took 6 pieces of maltose to Lin Zuzu and said, this is maltose. You can take it back and eat it with your family. Zhang Ziluo knew that Lin Zuzu missed her parents and younger brother at home. Oh, Sister Zhang, this maltose is a noble thing. Why do you get the maltose this time? I can't have it. Zhang Ziluo said, I made this myself. The things you usually bring me are not cheap, so don't be polite to me. Lin Zuzu was a little moved. She is in the butcher business, and many people look down upon her. It seemed to her that she was a girl who spent the whole day killing pigs, and was very murderous. Even if many people nearby come to buy things from her, they still think that the prices here are relatively cheaper, and sometimes they can give away some leftovers. It stands to reason that women understand women best, but many ladies look at her with contempt. When a lady passed by with her daughter, she said that she must learn embroidery well. She said that if she couldn't learn the craft, she would kill pigs and see the blood. As for using her as a negative, Only the girl in front of Zhang treated her as a normal girl. She felt very comfortable and relaxed talking to Sister Zhang. Then I won't be polite to you. Do you still want pigs in the water? There is a big bucket of pigs in the water for you today. Zhang Ziluo said, I'll buy your pig to go into the water. Lin Zuzu became anxious and said, how can that be done? My pig's water is not worth anything. No one will buy it. This thing is not well accepted and no one knows how to cook it. It was only when Sister Zhang made braised pig sesame last time that she realized how delicious it is. Zhang Ziluo said, don't worry, I'm thinking about doing braised pork offal business and making braised meat. Lin Zuzu's eyes lit up and she said, that's great. The braised pig offal you made tastes amazing and delicious. I don't think the braised pig head meat is that delicious. A lot of people will buy the things you make. Zhang Ziluo asked, do you know how much a pound of braised pig head meat here usually costs? Lin Zuzu said, there is a meat stall over there in the market. It sells not only fresh meat but also braised pork. The business is very good. A pound of braised pork costs 50 or 60 cents a pound, and there are many people buying it. Lin Zuzu sighed and said, it's a pity that the braised pork business is made by someone else's own secret recipe, and our family doesn't know how to do it. Lin Zuzu said, looking very pity. Those people who buy meat, whether it is raw or cooked meat, know how to go to the meat stall over there. Even if they buy a small piece at a time, it will be very profitable if more people buy it. So Sister Zhang, you will definitely be good at doing business. Very good. Zhang Ziluo thought for a moment and said, do you want to also put braised meat in your meat stall? Dear cuties, I received a notification that it will be on the shelves tomorrow, which means there will be an update in the early hours of tonight. Please support me, cuties. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 55. Chapter 55 Not Stupid, First Update. Lin Zuzu was immediately surprised when she heard Zhang Ziluo's words. Ah! She was so stunned that she couldn't come back to her senses. Suddenly I didn't understand what Sister Zhang meant. Zhang Ziluo was not in a hurry and gave her time to think. Lin Zuzu suddenly came back to her senses and said, Sister Zhang, if you want to make braised food, you can leave it to me for consignment. My place is not a market. The backyard is my own house. It is convenient for storing things. The place at the door is quite big. I can put the braised food in it by speeding up the chopping board. The braised meat you make is so delicious, people come here for your braised food and often come to buy things when the time comes. They come more often if they want to buy meat, they will buy meat from me. Lin Zuzu is not worried that people buying braised meat will affect the meat selling business. Her father had lamented to her many times before that if she could make braised meat, the business of the butcher stall would be better. It's a pity that their family doesn't know how to cook. Furthermore, she had seen the business of the butcher stall at the market. At first, that family was just an ordinary butcher stall, and their business was average. It was because braised pork was added later that business got better. People in the town are different from people in the village. Many people in the town are accustomed to buying ready-made things, that is, ready-made food that can be eaten directly after buying it. The people in the village live a frugal life. Occasionally they buy a piece of meat and cook it at home. Zhang Ziluo also saw that Lin Zuzu was very honest, so she felt comfortable doing business with her. Then he told what he had been thinking about in the afternoon and said, although I want to sell braised meat here on consignment, even I can't lend you the place for free. This is what I think, if I buy pig offal from you, make braised meat and sell it on consignment with you, I can pay you a commission, that is, give you 10%. I plan to price the braised pig in water at 29 cents per caddy. There is a difference between 29 cents and 30 cents. If this were the age of science and technology, she would want to price it at 29.9 cents. When everyone hears this, it seems that it is not very expensive for more than 20 yuan, but for 30 yuan, everyone will think it is a bit more expensive. Lin Zuzu's eyes widened in shock. No, pig offal can be sold at this price, which is much more expensive than pork belly. Of course pork belly is raw meat, and this is braised meat. However, Lin Zuzu was not surprised when she thought that she had eaten the braised food made by Sister Zhang before. She had been at her father and mother before, and once ate braised pork. She felt so delicious before. But now that I think about it carefully, I feel that it is still incomparable to the taste of Sister Jiang's pig sewer. Zhang Ziluo said, "You can also go home and discuss it with your family first." Lin Zuzu recovered from the surprise and hurriedly said, No, I can make the decision myself. This is a good thing. She doesn't have to do almost anything to get a commission. She was a little embarrassed. But she still wanted to have a braised food business that could boost her meat business. Moreover, her butchery department is not busy sometimes. She also takes care of the braised food business on weekdays, so she can take care of it. Then when the pig goes into the water, I will keep it for you, Sister Zhang. Zhang Ziluo thinks she should buy it or not. Finally, I insisted with Lin Zuzu for a while and settled on a price of 2 cents for a large bucket. Originally, Lin Zuzu wanted to give it as a gift, but Zhang Ziluo felt that in order to do long-term business, she still had to buy ingredients. If someone sees how delicious braised pig offal is in the future, they may also buy pig offal. When the time comes when the pig offal can be sold at a high price, it will not be a problem for her to get it for free from here. So we still need to negotiate a good deal from the beginning. Lin Zuzu was very happy and excited. Zhang Ziluo carried the pig into the water and went home. After she returned home, she began to burn plant ashes and prepare to use the plant ashes to clean pig sewage. We are still in the stage of getting enough food and clothing, and Zhang Ziluo doesn't care whether the pig's water tastes good or not. She made a simple mask out of cloth, put it on, and started cleaning it. At this moment, Mrs. Kui hurried back home. Ziluo, you are at home. Zhang Ziluo looked up and looked at Mrs. Kui, who was hesitant to speak, and her face was a little pale. Mom, what's wrong? Is there something wrong? Mrs. Kui then said, It's your grandma Zhao. She went to the mountain to chop firewood and was bitten by a poisonous snake. The doctors couldn't do anything after seeing her. It looked like she was dying. Mom was wondering if you could do anything. Mom originally didn't want to say that your grandma Zhao still has 2 grandsons at home, so she means living with you and grandma Zhao. But if your grandma Zhao goes away, the family will not even have the backbone. The younger one will be gone now. My voice was hoarse from crying. Mrs. Kui also felt really unhappy after hearing this. Thinking that Ziluo knows medical skills, I wonder if there will be any solution. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. She quickly put down what she was doing and washed her hands. Then she picked up the set of silver needles and said, Mom, please take me to see it quickly. Zhang Ziluo knew the situation of the Zhao family in the village. Grandma Zhao's son had joined the army and died in the battlefield. Her daughter-in-law took the pension and ran away. It was Grandma Zhao who wiped away her tears and worked hard to raise her 2 grandsons. This family pointed at Grandma Zhao. Mrs. Kui saw Zhang Ziluo going to take a look without saying a word, but felt that her previous hesitant idea was really inappropriate. The house on the east side. Mrs. Kui hurriedly took Zhang Ziluo there. At this time, many people in the village heard the news and went to take a look. They all tried their best to help, but no one could. The best doctors in the town shook their heads and told the Zhao family to prepare for the funeral. Woo, grandma, nothing will happen to you. An 8-year-old boy was crying hysterically. The older one, 15 years old, was also kneeling beside the bed. Some soft-hearted women also secretly wiped away tears. Sister Kui, Why are you here? Li Zheng and Li Zheng's daughter-in-law, Mrs. Zhu, naturally had to help here and comfort their two children. Mrs. Kui said, Ms. Hiluo, come over and take a look. You can't just give up before you die. When Mrs. Zhu heard this, her expression changed. Hiluo, she. At this time, she reacted excitedly. It was not Hiluo who saved the daughter of the county magistrate. She thought it was a coincidence. Could it be that Hiluo really knew how to save and treat people? She suddenly thought that her good sister Ye from Xingshan village was here. Her parents said that Zhangxiang Chuan and the Ye family came from Shanxing village to escape famine, but their appearance and temperament did not look like ordinary people. As their daughter's Hiluo, it is normal for her to have some abilities, right? Kui's daughter-in-law, doesn't she look stupid? Who said she was stupid? If she were stupid, could she think of a way to force Mr. Kui to marry her? Oh, you guys are talking about persecution and persecution. Mrs. Kui is so satisfied with her daughter-in-law that she can't even say no. It was naturally Mr. Niu who said this. In the morning, Mrs. Niu pulled Mrs. Kui and said a few words, but Ms. Kui started to scold her. It is not allowed to say a few words in front of the villagers. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 56. Chapter 56 Worry, Second Update. People in the village love gossip the most. The atmosphere created just now by Mrs. Zhao was very low. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but chat a few words. Mrs. Kui is satisfied, but her son may not be satisfied. He is a godlike person. He looks like a painting at a glance. Tisk tisk, no, we have never seen such a good-looking person stuck in cow dung like this. Master Kui definitely doesn't like her. Mrs. Zhu was protecting Zhang's Hiluo. When she heard these words, she was not happy. Hiluo, you are such a good person, what have you said about her? Our village does not tolerate bullying. If a village is not united, it will not be called a village. Hiluo is beautiful and kind-hearted, so why is she so bad? Mrs. Zhu is the daughter-in-law of Li Zheng and has great prestige in the village. Everyone dare not say anything more. Of course I couldn't help but make up a few sentences in my mind. Everyone saw that when Mr. Kui and Zhang's Hiluo got married, their expressions were cold and they didn't even smile. It doesn't look like you like it? I didn't see other young men in the village getting married, and my teeth were stretched to the back of my head when I smiled. When someone makes fun of you and your face turns red with embarrassment, that's how you like it? Mrs. Kui and Zhang's Hiluo didn't care about talking to the villagers. It was more important to save people now. When Zhang's Hiluo entered the house, Zhao Dalin, a 14-year-old boy who looked very thin, was secretly wiping tears beside him. Zhao Erlin was only 8 years old and was crying so hard that he was out of breath. Zhao Erlin watched blankly as a very good-looking sister came over and touched her head. Don't cry, your grandma will be fine. Those very gentle words made Zhao Erlin forget about crying and talking. Zhao Dalin was even more startled. While they were stunned, Zhang's Hiluo had already stepped forward with a silver needle. She used silver needles to seal Mrs. Zhao's acupuncture points to prevent the snake venom from spreading. Then he helped old Mrs. Zhao treat the wound again. Then use the wood power to force out some of the snake venom blood for Mrs. Zhao. Ahem. Old Mrs. Zhao calmed down a little and coughed slightly. When she coughed, Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin were stunned. Grandma. Grandma was not breathing just now, and the doctor said she had to prepare for the funeral. But now I can see that Grandma is coughing with some strength. They believed Zhang's Hiluo's words even more. He also gave her some spiritual spring water to drink. Her wood power is still very weak and cannot cure Grandma Zhao. Now she must get some herbal medicine. Everyone around looked on and was shocked. No, Xiluo can really save people. This is snake venom. If you are bitten by a poisonous snake, you will die. The reason why the villagers dare not go to the back mountain to pick things is because they are afraid of wild beasts and venomous snakes. Some villagers who went to Huishan before were bitten to death by venomous snakes. Doctors couldn't do anything if they were bitten by venomous snakes. Just cough a few times and say help and he will be saved. Haven't you ever heard of a saying, treat a dead horse as a living horse? Doctor, maybe it can be cured, it's better than waiting for someone to die. Looking at what you said, we are all from the same village, so I naturally hope that Mrs. Zhao will be well. Mrs. Kui was unhappy now and said, my Xiluo came here to save people out of kindness. If she fails to save someone, she will be blamed. At this rate, even if there is a way, no one will dare to come over and give it a try. Sister Kui, that's not what we meant. Yep. Zhao Dalin came back to his senses, knelt down and said to Zhang Xiluo, Sister Zhang, I believe in you, please save my grandma. Zhao Dalin is 14 years old, and a child from a poor family has long been in charge. He is long past the age of ignorance. In the village, one is an adult at the age of 15. He knew that only if Sister Zhang could cure Grandma, there would be a glimmer of hope. Even if it was just a little bit of hope, he would give it a try. Zhang Xiluo looked at Zhao Dalin and felt that he was a sensible and smart man. She said, I can only help your grandma delay for one night, while I look for medicinal materials. You can help keep an eye on your grandma and don't let anyone touch her. As long as we find all the medicinal ingredients and give her the medicine, she will be fine. For Zhang Xiluo, being bitten by a poisonous snake can be cured, but the medical level in this era is backward, so she needs to find medicinal materials. She remembered that when she went to the back mountain to pick leeks, she seemed to have seen a few medicinal materials that could detoxify snake venom. She knows the way. Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin didn't know why, but looking at Sister Zhang in front of them, they found her words very convincing. Zhao Dalin nodded seriously. Zhang Xiluo was going to the back mountain to collect herbs. Mrs. Kui hurriedly said, Xiluo, let me help you. How could she trust Xiluo to go to the mountain alone? Zhang Xiluo said, Mom, my husband will go home soon. He will be worried if there is no one at home. You go home and tell her that the pig's waste has not been washed yet. Please go home and help me wash it. Zhang Xiluo knew that Mrs. Kui would be anxious if she waited here. It would be better to let her go home and have something to do, so that she would stop thinking randomly. But, Mom, it's okay. I saw the medicinal materials before and I picked them back quickly. When Zhu heard this, he hurriedly said, it's getting dark. How can I let you go up the mountain alone? I'll help you. The women who were chatting and gossiping before quickly responded, we will accompany you, the mountain behind is not safe. Yes, there is strength in numbers. Even when it gets dark, we can still light the lamps. Although everyone likes to gossip, they are not bad-hearted, and they are all warm-hearted people at critical times. Zhang Xiluo refused and quickly went up the mountain without giving everyone time to react. It's not dark yet. Zhang Xiluo is very fast, but it won't take a while to get back inside the back mountain. Kui family. Kui Hejin came home from school and saw her mother working in the yard, so she called out. Mrs. Kui responded absently and continued to clean the pig's waste. Kui Hejin entered the house expecting to see her busy figure as before. But not this time. Kui Hejin couldn't tell what kind of feeling he had in his heart, maybe he was not used to it. He turned around but did not see Zhang Xiluo. He came back to the yard and looked at his mother, who was silent for a while, but couldn't help but said, Mom, has Xiluo gone somewhere? When talking about this, Mrs. Kui looked slightly panicked and said, Hibiscus, Zilugo has gone to the back mountain to collect medicine. It's almost dark. What do you think she should do if she encounters danger? How can I be worthy of her and worthy of you? This child is honest. Why didn't I react at the time? I should have accompanied her. At that time Mrs. Kui was in a panic, but when she realized what she was doing, Zilugo had already gone to the back mountain. I didn't ask anyone to help. Kui Hejin's delicate and beautiful face instantly lost a trace of blood and turned slightly pale. His eyes trembled uncontrollably and he said in a low voice and hoarsely, "Mom, what are you talking about collecting herbs?" Kui Hejin knew that to collect medicine, you have to go deep into the mountains. In the mountains, there are either wild beasts or poisonous insects. Mrs. Kui tried to calm herself down and explain the matter. Kui Hejin did not hesitate and said decisively, "I will go to the back mountain." Mrs. Kui was stunned for a moment, and she naturally understood the meaning of her son's words. He was going to find Zilugo. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 57. Chapter 57 Ambiguity, Third Update. Mrs. Kui suddenly stood up and said, "I will work with you to get Zilugo back as soon as possible." Mrs. Kui blamed herself very much. "The more I think about it, the more scared I become. Mrs. Zhao could be bitten by a poisonous snake. What if Zilugo is bitten at night? But, how could she think like that? Her Zilugo must be fine and nothing will happen to her." Kui Hejin looked at his mother's dazed look and said softly, "Mom, you are at home, I will go to the back mountain. If Zilugo returns home, she will be anxious if there is no one around. The mountain forest is too dense, and Kui Hejin is also worried that if he takes one of the roads into the mountain to find someone, Zhang Zilugo will come back from the other side. Even so, Kui Hejin still has to find someone." Mrs. Kui said worriedly, "It's so late and the forest is so dense. How can we find it?" Kui Hejin lit an oil lamp, carried it and walked outside the house, whispering, "Mom, there are some things you have to do." Before Mrs. Kui could say anything else, Kui Hejin was already walking towards the forest. There is a road that everyone has walked on the outskirts of the mountain forest, forming a small path. After following this road into the forest, the depths of the mountain forest become dense. But fortunately it had rained a few days ago, there was still moisture in the mountains and forests, and the soil on the surface was a little soft. Kui Hejin could identify one of the footprints. He walked forward step by step, following the footprints. I don't know how long I walked, but the night was getting darker and darker. Kui Hejin also came to a cliff halfway up the mountain. There are no footprints here at all. Looking at the surrounding environment, Kui Hejin's expression changed. "Zilugo. Zilugo, are you there? Zilugo." A sound like a gukin slowly sounded in the silent night. If you listen carefully, you can hear a note of worry in his voice. Zhang Zilugo is collecting medicinal materials behind a stone halfway up the mountain. This key medicinal material is hidden on the edge of the cliff. It is difficult to pick it. It must be picked together with the roots to avoid damage. Hearing a clear and pleasant voice coming from the night, she thought it was an illusion. She never expected that her name would be called out by a person, with a low and slightly hoarse tone, which sounded so nice and seemed to be able to easily touch people's heartstrings. Zhang Zilugo originally thought it was an illusion, but after hearing a few words, she felt something was wrong. She stood up slowly, and then saw Kui Hejin standing behind the big stone with a lantern. He was dressed in a black plain robe, almost blending into the night. He was holding a dim yellow oil lamp in his hand, which seemed to envelope his whole person in a lingering color. At this time, the fine moonlight shone through the mottled leaves in the mountain forest, and also fell on him. Made him look like the pale moon in the sky, or like a phantom in the night, with a strange and beautiful sense of enchantment. Zhang Ziluo's heart skipped a beat uncontrollably. She even thought she was hallucinating before her eyes. Kui Hejin. Zhang Ziluo couldn't believe that she would see Kui Hejin here. Could it be that some kind of monster had become so beautiful and came to seduce people? At this time, from a short distance away, Zhang Ziluo could almost see the thrilling brightness at the end of his narrow eyes. Especially when his picturesque eyes looked at her quietly, there seemed to be a dark and seductive tone in them. Kui Hejin slowly breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Zhang Ziluo was intact and was sure it was her. But before she could completely relax, a snake jumped out from under the cliff and attacked Zhang Ziluo directly. Careful! Kui Hejin's expression changed, and with a move of his finger, a small blade directly pierced 7 inches of the snake. Ah! Just now, Zhang Ziluo was slightly distracted when she looked at Kui Hejin and did not notice the danger. But she instinctively felt something and had to avoid it reflexively. But she forgot that there was a cliff behind her. She just stepped back and bent over, and stepped directly into the air. Just when she was about to fall, Kui Hejin jumped over, lay down directly on the edge of the cliff, and grabbed her wrist. You! Zhang Ziluo stared blankly. It could be said that everything in front of her exceeded her imagination. So much so that Zhang Ziluo was still in a state of confusion. Kui Hejin only thought she was scared just now. He turned pale, pulled Zhang Ziluo up hard, and whispered, "Don't be afraid." These 2 simple words carry a different kind of tenderness in the silent night. His voice was also so clean and gentle, gently tickling the tip of her heart like a feather. Zhang Ziluo took advantage of the night and saw Kui Hejin's pale face. She also tried her best to step on the cliff and push up. When Kui Hejin pulled Zhang Ziluo up, he fell directly backwards due to inertia. Zhang Ziluo's foot was accidentally bent just now, so that she couldn't step on it firmly. Because Kui Hejin was protecting Zhang Ziluo, when he stepped back, Zhang Ziluo fell directly into his arms. Kui Hejin snorted, but still protected Zhang Ziluo from falling to the ground. Kui Hejin fell to the ground instead, and his back seemed to hit something, but he endured not making a sound. Zhang Ziluo's nose was filled with a clean and refreshing breath, with a faint dark fragrance, which was very seductive. She knew this was the aura of Kui Hejin. Zhang Ziluo reacted and came to her senses, hurriedly stood up and said, I didn't mean it. Oh my God, Kui Hejin doesn't think she did it on purpose, right? God knows that her feet were twisted just because she stepped on the cliff, and now they are in terrible pain. That was really careless. Given Kui Hejin's temperament, Zhang Ziluo felt that he must be very concerned about it. Looking at Zhang Ziluo's helpless look, Kui Hejin said in a low voice, "It doesn't matter." Zhang Ziluo felt that Kui Hejin might not want to have too close contact with her, otherwise his face seemed even paler. However, she was still worried about him and whispered, "Are you okay? If not, I will help you up first." Zhang Ziluo stretched out her hand tentatively, thinking that maybe he didn't know how to use it. Unexpectedly, Kui Hejin reached out and took her hand directly, and then stood up from the ground. A cool and warm touch was directly transmitted to the palm of her hand. It even has a feeling of electric shock and numbness. When Kui Hejin stood up, Zhang Ziluo quickly pulled her hand back, as if she was electrocuted. Fortunately, Kui Hejin also retracted his hand after standing up. Zhang Ziluo blinked and looked at Kui Hejin, feeling that he was different tonight than usual. Zhang Ziluo, who was so cold, said, "Are you the male demon in this forest?" Hearing these words, Kui Hejin looked down at Zhang Ziluo, as if there was a dark whirlpool in his eyes, trying to swallow people up. After a while, he smiled lazily, then looked at her with a half-smile and said, "What do you think?" Speaking, Kui Hejin adjusted his clothes slowly, still looking like the noble man he was. Zhang Ziluo was even more confused. Kui Hejin had always been cold and distant, and had never smiled. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 58. Chapter 58 Bewitchment, 4th Update. Zhang's Hiluo thought for a while, scratched her hair, and said tangledly, "I don't taste good anyway." Kui Hejin looked down at her, with a clear smile on his lips, and even his picturesque eyes overflowed with a little smile. He didn't expect that his little wife had such a lovely side. He sighed softly and murmured, "Fool." Zhang's Hiluo had come to her senses at this time. She squatted down and was about to put the dug medicinal materials into the space. However, thinking of Kui Hejin next to her, she still honestly put them into the small basket on her back. With just a movement, she took a breath with a hiss. This body is also too sensitive to pain. Isn't it just that I sprained my foot? Why does it hurt so much? Kui Hejin's expression calmed down and he whispered, "What's wrong? Are you injured somewhere?" When he spoke, his voice was clear and magnetic, slightly hoarse at this time, and seemed to be able to easily tug at people's heartstrings. Zhang's Hiluo said softly, "It's just that I twisted my foot." Zhang's Hiluo thought that twisting her foot was just a trivial matter, and she didn't care much about it. And she is a doctor herself. She will go home and get some medicine to put on it, and she will be fine in 2 days. Kui Hejin said in a gentle and elegant voice, "Don't move. Actually, it's okay, I just need to take a few steps and it'll be fine." Kui Hejin slowed down his voice and said helplessly, "Listen, don't move yet." Kui Hejin said, helping Zhang's Hiluo sit down on the stone next to her, and then he slowly squatted down in front of her. Zhang's Hiluo was a little confused. Kui Hejin whispered, "Come up, I will carry you home." Hearing these words, Zhang's Hiluo's heartstrings trembled violently. This reminded her of that life, in which he just couldn't bear the slightest harm to her. He loved her even more and doted on her to the core. How could she bear to burden him when he was such a good person? She told herself that it was her turn to be good to him in this life. "I'm very heavy, I'm really fine, I can walk." Kui Hejin, good-tempered as always, said, "Have you forgotten that Grandma Zhao is still waiting for you to bring back the medicinal materials?" Hearing these words, Zhang's Hiluo couldn't care less about being pretentious. She just happened to have gathered all the medicinal materials. She slowly reached out her hand and put it on Kui Hejin's back. Kui Hejin carried her on his back and walked step by step through the mountains and forests. Zhang's Hiluo thought Kui Hejin was very thin before, but when she was actually carried on his back, she realized that Kui Hejin was still very powerful. No wonder he was able to pull out the maltose quickly with all his strength. Zhang's Hiluo leaned on Kui Hejin's back, a little tense at first, but thinking about that life, her body involuntarily relaxed. In that life, once she was in danger, he rescued her regardless of his own danger. At that time, he carried her on his back and walked back through the mountain road for more than 20 miles. I am not willing to let her suffer a little bit. During this period, she didn't dare to think about the memories of that time. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to bear the cold and alienated him in this life. But at this moment, she was lying on his back, and many memories came up uncontrollably. Zhang's Hiluo's heart felt swollen and painful. She sniffed and said, "If you feel tired, just tell me and I can come down and walk for a while. Don't worry. If you feel uncomfortable, just take a nap first. I'll call you when you get to the village." Kui Hejin seemed to hear something was wrong in Zhang's Hiluo's voice, and thought she would be scared, so he comforted her softly. How could Zhang's Hiluo be willing to sleep at this time? She wished she could live forever like this. At this time, they are both still alive and well, and she can be so close to him and treat him well, which is great. Zhang's Hiluo slowly reached out and hugged Kui Hejin's neck. Kui Hejin's body stiffened for a moment, but he just paused and continued walking. He walked very steadily, being careful not to bump Zhang's Hiluo. Seeing that Kui Hejin didn't say anything, Zhang Ziluo boldly pressed her face against his back. Let her indulge like this for a little while. Zhang Ziluo suppressed the surging emotions in her heart for a while. Husband. What's wrong? Are you here specifically for me? Ziluo Jiang's sour mood suddenly felt sweet, and she said, are you worried about me? Ye Kui Hejin admitted this time. The tone of Zhang Ziluo's voice has become much lighter, and her nasal sound has become much lighter. Why? She still couldn't help but want to ask why. You are my wife. Zhang Ziluo was still a little disappointed when she heard this answer. Yes, even if you are just a wife in name only, you will still be worried. He is so responsible. But it's okay, much better than before. But I'm still very happy, thank you. Kui Hejin felt an indescribable feeling of sadness in his heart. He whispered, today at noon. What he really wanted to ask was this. Zhang Ziluo guessed what Kui Hejin would ask. What's going on at noon today? Do you have a tight time to go home for dinner? But it doesn't matter, I'm going to set up a stall in the town to sell snacks tomorrow, and I can go to the school to deliver food to you at noon. Zhang Ziluo will not talk about her dreams, nor will she expose the space. Kui Hejin's cherry blossom-like lips moved, and then he changed what he was about to say. It's nothing, I just want to thank you. Zhang Ziluo pretended not to know anything and just joked and said with a smile, then when you say thank you to me, you just say thank you. Kui Hejin had never realized that his little wife had such a naughty side before. He said in a good-natured manner, well, what do you want? The ending tone was slightly raised, as if full of temptation. Zhang Ziluo's eyes blinked, and a glimmer of light flashed across her eyes. She smiled softly, hugged Kui Hejin's neck, leaned slightly close to his ear, and said, how about you, husband, pledge yourself to me. Zhang Ziluo's breath brushed directly against Kui Hejin's ear, causing a slight itching like a feather. Kui Hejin's body stiffened for a moment, and he took a breath directly from his heart. Zhang Ziluo was wondering if Kui Hejin would get angry and put her down from his back. That way he wouldn't have to carry her hard, and she could keep walking on her own. She didn't want him to be so good and be such a good person in this life, she thought he could be a little selfish. But even so, Kui Hejin carried her steadily and did not say anything about throwing her down on his back. The wind in the forest blew slowly, blowing their clothes and rustling the leaves, like bamboo flutes in the forest, misty and hazy. A strand of hair on Zhang Ziluo's cheek was blown up, and it also brushed past Kui Hejin's face, carrying a faint girlish fragrance. Kui Hejin's eyes narrowed. At this moment, none of them spoke, as if their hearts were slightly disturbed by the wind. Perhaps it's just the hazy night that makes people slightly confused. Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo. There were bursts of sounds from the front. The peaceful atmosphere was suddenly broken. Zhang Ziluo looked forward and saw many torches not far away lighting up the night sky, which seemed to also light up people's hearts. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 59. Chapter 59 Pampering. At this moment, Zhang Ziluo felt an indescribable warmth in her heart as she listened to the voices of the villagers. It was also at this moment that she felt that their Donghe village was really good. Zhang Ziluo said happily, it's Aunt Zhu and the others who came to see us. Let me get down first and let's walk over. It doesn't matter, I'll carry you there. Kui Hejin walked over there with Zhang Ziluo on his back. Zhang Ziluo also responded to everyone's calls, I am here, I am here. When she shouted, fear shook Kui Hejin's ears, and she gently reached out to cover his ears. Looking very attentive. Zhang Ziluo's voice suddenly penetrated a long distance. The villagers over there heard the voice and said, "Oh, it's Zhang Ziluo's voice." "Yes, it's the voice of the little lady from the Kui family." "Quick, go over there." Many villagers came over quickly holding torches. When they saw Kui Hejin walking towards them with Zhang Ziluo on his back, everyone was stunned for a moment. Some people rubbed their eyes hard to make sure they saw it correctly. "It's Mr. Kui, why are you here too?" Zhang Ziluo knew that Kui Hejin was not used to explaining too much to others. She spoke helpfully, "My husband is worried about me and came here to find me." Even if Kui Hejin is really cool and cold on weekdays, she doesn't want anyone to misunderstand Kui Hejin and say that he is wrong. Because it reminded her of the gossip of the villagers. "Oh, it's really different when you have a daughter-in-law. You know how to feel sorry for your daughter-in-law." Li Zheng's wife, Mrs. Zhu, squeezed over and looked at Zhang Ziluo worriedly. "Ziluo, are you injured?" She knew that Ziluo was a good child. If she hadn't been feeling unwell, she wouldn't have let her husband carry her like this. Who doesn't know that Mr. Kui is weak? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "Well, my foot is sprained, so my husband wants to carry me back to the village." Zhang Ziluo's voice is as sweet as my husband's. It's as sweet and soft as glutinous rice candy. Zhu said, "There are so many of us, so let me carry it. I am strong, so let your husband rest for a while." I know that this girl feels sorry for her husband. Furthermore, Mrs. Zhu was also worried that Kui Hejin would be exhausted. Tired and distressed, Ziluo is the one doing the hard work. Zhang Ziluo was about to say that she could walk by herself, and everyone just needed to support her. Unexpectedly, before she could say anything, Kui Hejin said, "Aunt Zhu, I'm fine. Let's go back to the village first." Kui Hejin said this, it's hard for everyone to say anything else. Zhang Ziluo thanked the villagers. Some women who like to gossip were walking behind and couldn't help but chat a few words. "Who said Mr. Kui doesn't like Zhang Ziluo? Doesn't it sound like he doesn't?" "No, everyone has been here before. It looks like they are hurting and protecting me. I don't feel comfortable leaving it to someone else." "Sister Li, you think I don't know that when you were young, the river flooded the bridge, and Brother Joe was afraid that you would catch a cold, so he carried you across the river." Li and Zhou Dazhuang were husband and wife. When they were young, they were like mixing honey with oil. The two of them have been getting along very well over the years, and people in the village couldn't help but joke about it. Li's son was already half-grown and thick-skinned. He said angrily, "The head of my family is just kind to me." But to be honest, the young couple is so sweet when they see each other. Please don't say those words in the future. That's not a rumor. So rumors cannot be trusted, only what you see with your own eyes is true. Many people in the village spoke loudly, and Kui Hejin and Zhang Ziluo naturally heard these words from the front. No matter how calm the two of them were, their faces could not help but feel a little hot at this moment. Fortunately, it was dark in the forest and I couldn't see much. But Zhang Ziluo was on Kui Hejin's back, and by the light of the torch behind her, she naturally saw Kui Hejin's slightly red ears. Zhang Ziluo looked at it in surprise, thinking, is he being shy? Soon, they came out of the forest and returned to the village. Zhang Ziluo asked Kui Hejin to take her to Zhao's house first. It was getting very late at this time, and there were still several villagers helping to guard the Zhao family. Li Zheng and his wife Zhu organized some strong men and women to go to the mountains and forests to find people. Some people were also left in the village, and a few others stayed at Zhao's house, thinking that they could help if there was any emergency. Everyone was relieved when they saw that Zhang Ziluo was back. Although everyone doesn't know how Zhang Ziluo knows medical skills, they also don't know whether Zhang Ziluo knew medical skills when she was at her parents' home in Xingshan village. But everyone knows one thing, that is, whether Mrs. Zhao can recover. The glimmer of hope lies in Zhang Ziluo. As soon as Zhang Ziluo entered the Zhao family yard, everyone looked at her. Without anyone having to ask, Zhang Ziluo explained, "We have found the medicinal materials, boiled the medicine and gave it to Grandma Zhao to drink, and the snake venom will be detoxified, then everything will be fine." Hearing these words, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This is a good feeling. Ziluo, you are still awesome. You just saved the Zhao family. Ziluo, if you need help, if you need anything, let us know and we will help together. Zhang Ziluo said, "It's okay, I just need to make a good medicine." Everyone has already prepared the jars for boiling medicine. Zhang Ziluo mixed the medicinal materials, put them in the jar, and poured in the spiritual spring water to brew the medicine. This way the medicine will take effect faster. More than half an hour later, Zhang Ziluo poured out the prepared medicine, then limped into the house to help give Grandma Zhao the medicine. Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin watched nervously. Zhang Ziluo gave the medicine and stayed there for a quarter of an hour. After taking her pulse and seeing that there was no problem, she said to the two brothers Zhao Dalin, "Your grandma's poison is almost detoxified. The medicine is working. Wait for the next day, your grandma will be fine the next morning. But I have to take good care of my body these 2 days after all. If I take the medicine after being poisoned by snake venom, I will be a little weak. I will be fine in a few days." Old Mrs. Zhao's body is actually malnourished and prone to dizziness and anemia. But these cannot be solved by medicine. It can only be solved if the nutrition of food keeps up, but it is not a big problem. Also, try to eat better on weekdays, otherwise your body will become weak easily. Zhao Dalin took his younger brother Zhao Erlin and knelt down in front of Zhang Ziluo and said, "Thank you, Sister Zhang, for saving our grandma. Sister Zhang will be our benefactor from now on." Zhang Ziluo wanted to pull them in a hurry, but because she stood up too fast, her feet hurt when she stood, and she almost fell again. Fortunately, Kui Hejin was there to support Zhang Ziluo in time. Looking at Zhang Ziluo's anxious look, Kui Hejin whispered to Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin, "You guys should get up and talk first." Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin only felt that there was an indescribable pressure on Mr. Kui in front of them. Let them involuntarily obey his words and do things. Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin just got up. Zhang Ziluo said, "I'm not used to others kneeling down to me. Besides, we are all from the same village, so there is no need to be so polite." End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 60. Chapter 60 Help. Zhang Ziluo said a few more words, asking Zhao Dalin and Zhao Erlin to take good care of their grandma. After that, the villagers all went home. Kui Hejin and Zhang Ziluo also went home. After Mrs. Kui washed the pigs, she kept walking back and forth in the yard. No matter how anxious she was, she still remembered her son's words and told her to wait at home. Ziluo and he hibiscus must be fine and fine. Blame me. Mrs. Kui was mumbling in a daze, she was so worried that her heart was in her throat. Kui Hejin said softly, "Mom, we are back." Zhang Ziluo also saw Mrs. Kui's worried look, and felt warm and a little sour in her heart. Mrs. Kui heard the sound and looked over excitedly. "I saw my son carefully supporting his daughter-in-law." "Ziluo, what's wrong with you?" Mrs. Kui looked at Zhang Ziluo up and down, fearing that she would be hurt. Zhang Ziluo said, "Mom, I'm fine. I just sprained my foot. I rubbed it with herbs and it will be fine tomorrow after some sleep." Just when Zhang Ziluo was brewing medicine at Zhao's house, she pounded a few herbs for treating sprains and applied them to her feet. "Just treat it briefly first. Fortunately, the sprain is not serious and it will probably be fine the next day." It's okay, it's all my fault, if I were. Mom, if you go to the mountain with me, you will move slower. It will be faster for me to go back and forth to the mountain by myself." The family had a conversation, and Mrs. Kui was relieved to learn that Mrs. Zhao was fine. Kui Hejin still remembers the shocked and curious look of the villagers at Zhao's house just now. They were all shocked by Zhiluo's medical skills. It's good that everything is okay. I will feel relieved when you go home. I saw there were buns on the lid of the pot, so I heated them up in the pot. Mrs. Kui saw the small dining cart and the bellows in the yard, and guessed that these things and the buns were brought by Zhiluo's family. She didn't ask any more questions, just because she was afraid that Zhiluo would feel uncomfortable. Zhang Zhiluo said, "My father and sixth brother came this afternoon, and they brought the buns. I gave my father 5 taels of the 10 taels of silver I got from the consultation, and also brought them some maltos." Mrs. Kui said softly, carefully considering her words, "Zhiluo, it's all thanks to you that our family's conditions have improved now. You also earn the money yourself. In the future, you can just arrange anything at home. You don't have to do anything with us, say, it's up to you." Zhang Zhiluo breathed a sigh of relief. She had to say that the respect given by Mrs. Kui made her feel comfortable and relaxed. Previously, Kui Hejin also said that she could make the final arrangements for matters at home. Zhang Zhiluo said sincerely, "Thank you, mother." Mrs. Kui held Zhang Zhiluo's hand distressedly and said, "Mom, she came here when she was someone's daughter-in-law. Don't feel uncomfortable. No matter what you do, my mother will understand and support you. We are a family and don't talk about these things if you are hungry too, let's eat first. It's true that I was busy working so late." Mrs. Kui took out the buns from the pot. The 3 people washed their hands and sat at the dining table eating steamed buns. "Are these buns wrapped in willow leaves?" Mrs. Kui was slightly surprised when she took 2 bites and found the filling. Zhiluo said before that willow leaves can be used for cooking. She even picked some willow leaves, but they were only used for cooking and not for making steamed buns. So she could taste it as soon as she ate it? Zhang Zhiluo felt a warm feeling in her heart while eating her mother's buns. It seems to be able to convey a trace of unspeakable feelings. It must be the concern and longing for my parents. It's like eating the buns made by them, as if they are also around. Well, Dad said that my brothers and sisters went to the river to pick willow leaves and wanted to make the buns according to the method I told them. I didn't expect that the buns tasted good, so I used white bread. At the beginning, it was a bun mixed with cornbread, and I was reluctant to use all white flour. It was also her mother who knew that her father was going to send her a small dining cart and bellows, so she thought of making buns with white bread and bringing them to her. Mrs. Kui praised, "I didn't expect the buns made with willow leaves to be so delicious. It's because your mother is a good cook." While eating, Mrs. Kui seemed to have something in mind and said, "By the way, Zhiluo, how do you use that bellows?" Mrs. Kui had heard Zhiluo talk about the bellows before, saying that using the bellows to burn firewood saves effort and firewood. Zhang Zhiluo said, "Mom, when I stew the pig and put it into the water, I will use the bellows and you will know." Mrs. Kui made a movement with her hands, quickly swallowed the mouthful of rice in her mouth, and said, "Zhiluo, it's so late, and you have to stew pigs in water. You are also tired, so you'd better rest early." Zhang Zhiluo said, "Mom, I'm fine. I'm thinking of going to town tomorrow to sell braised pigs. There happens to be a small food truck. We can also go to town to buy some food and make leek boxes." With that said, Zhang Zhiluo also talked about using the meat stand Linzuzu meat stand to sell braised meat on consignment. Mrs. Kui was filled with admiration. After eating, Zhang Zhiluo would continue to stew the pig in the water with a limp. Kui Hejin sighed softly and said, "I'll do it, you tell me what to do." Why did Zhang Zhiluo let Kui Hejin stay up late? She waved her hand and said, "It's okay. You have to go to school to teach early tomorrow morning. You should rest early." She was worried that she was tired from holding Kui Hejin down just now. Does not affect. Kui Hejin insisted on helping, so Zhang Zhiluo had no choice but to let him help. Zhang's Hiluo poked a hole next to the stove mouth, aligned the mouth of the bellows, and then pulled the bellows. Mom, look at the flames on the stove. Just now, the firewood was lit. When the bellows was pulled, the wind was blowing, and the flames burned instantly. Mrs. Kui was immediately shocked, showing a look of shock and surprise. The flames are so strong. So, this bellows is a good thing. If every household has a bellows, it can save firewood. It will save a lot of firewood for burning the Kong in the winter. With such a flame, the pot can be boiled in no time. Zhang's Hiluo shook her head and said, my father made bellows and set up a stall in the market to sell them. It was not easy to sell at all. Everyone only wanted to buy daily necessities, mostly food, or urgently needed things. They thought the bellows could be used or not, and they were reluctant to spend it. Money. Kui Hejin listened at the side and said softly, it can be sold to blacksmith shops, pottery shops, brick shops, and other places. When Zhang's Hiluo heard this, her eyes lit up. That's right, why didn't she think of it? Especially for blacksmithing. In the blacksmith shop, if there is a bellows, it can improve the efficiency. I can tell Dad when I get back. She thought about what her father said in the afternoon and felt that if she wanted to help her father do some business, she could only let them do something that could take their time. For example, Dad can do these handicrafts when he has time, without delaying anything. But if your parents go to the town and set up stalls to sell food every day, they may not get used to it. Zhang's Hiluo felt happy. When she looked up at Kui Hejin, her eyes were filled with a bright luster, which was bright and moving. End of this chapter.